Alrighty, yo, what is going on everybody? It's your boy Mr. DDG94 back with another reaction video. Today we finna react to Triple H versus Shawn Michaels, the most intense WWE rivalry. Hey, most definitely. When we talking about long-term booking, nothing comes more long-term booking than this fucking feud right here. I think this feud went from 2002 all the way to 2005. Um, this was an intense rivalry. Shawn and Triple H, 5-star matches every time they went up against each other. Man, some of the best storytelling WWE ever fucking did with these two was to let these two go at it and just let them do their own thing together, man. Yeah, man. Long term booking, this is probably the best one for sure. Without further ado, though, let's get right into it.
The legendary rivalry of Triple H and Shawn Michaels.
I know I'm sexy.
From allies against the authority figure to being rivals in a bitter and physical feud. Later on, they went to become friends again before eventually taking over the entire company. It all went full circle for them. If you look at the WWE today, Triple H and Shawn Michaels basically run the show. Hunter is now in charge of most of the creative stuff happening behind the scenes. He even brought in Michaels to be the head of creative in NXT. So when you look at it, these guys did what they wanted to do when they were the leaders of Degeneration X. They became the company's authority figures and took over the business from a creative standpoint. These guys are real friends, and their partnership is not just for kayfabe stuff. Instead, they have a genuine friendship that allowed them to work together as teammates in the ring and as executives behind the scenes. But for all the great memories we've had of Hunter and HBK as members of DX, their in-ring rivalry and matches were just as great. So let's revisit the legendary rivalry of Triple H and Shawn Michaels. During the 90s, the WWE was looking for its next big star. The company had long been banking on Hulk Hogan's star power during the 80s and early 90s. But when it became clear that the Hulkster was looking to go someplace else, the company looked for other stars who had what it took to carry the company into the future. Vince McMahon tried to bank on a lot of different names who had the same Hogan aura. He tried to turn guys like the Ultimate Warrior, Yokozuna, and Bret Hart into the faces of the company. But it was only during the middle part of the 90s that guys with legitimate star power rose up to take the reins. While he was already with the WWE during the latter part of the 90s, Shawn Michaels didn't break out until he ditched his tag team partner Marty Jannetty. He adopted the nickname the Heartbreak Kid, which ultimately became the persona he used throughout his almost entire career. HBK was a vain and cocky villain who thought he was better than anyone. He had star potential written all over him because he could run the mic, get fans to genuinely react to his character, and put on 5-star matches. So while
Yes.
he didn't have the macho persona that Hogan had, he became one of the top guys in the company during the 90s, paving the way for WWE Championship opportunities. With the older guys on the roster left, it was an opportunity for the young bloods to rise up and take charge. That was what happened when Hunter Hearst Helmsley, popularly known as Triple H, when he moved from WCW to WWE. Triple H rose through the ranks quickly during the latter half of the 90s. His star power and influence over McMahon and the other heads of creatives allowed him to get in the good graces of the other young stars. Michaels and Triple H eventually became friends, forming a backstage group called The Click, which also had Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, and Sean Waltman. These up-and-coming personalities were said to have a big influence on creative decisions made by Vince and his people. They used their influence to help each other's careers, while also pulling down other wrestlers. Eventually, Nash and Hall left to go to WCW, leaving Triple H and Michaels as the two most prominent members of the Clique. Of course, while they were friends backstage, they still competed against one another in the ring. They first wrestled each other in a one-on-one match in April 1996. HBK, the rising megastar, won that match. In 1997, however, the two formed Degeneration X together with Chyna and Rick Rude, creating one of the best factions of the Attitude Era. Triple H's persona changed from being a well-mannered nobleman to being a rebellious outlaw. Meanwhile, HBK's persona fits in nicely with what DX stood for as a group that pushed the envelope. Michaels, the leader of DX at that time, held the European Championship, entering into a match with WWE Champion Bret Hart. In a controversial match known as the Montreal Screwjob, Michaels won the WWE Championship and now held 2 titles. Of course, since the company wanted HBK to focus more on carrying WWE on his shoulders, he dropped the European Championship to none other than Triple H. In a farcical match, Michaels allowed Hunter to pin him just over a minute into the match so that his fellow DX member could now hold the European title. This was the first title match between the two stars, although there was nothing personal between them in that match. They simply wanted to keep the European title within DX. HBK, however, had to temporarily retire in 1998 because of a legitimate back injury that prevented him from competing. With Michaels gone from the picture, Triple H stepped into the leadership position of DX and formed an alliance with the New Age Outlaws to take the stable into the future. Hunter's leadership role turned DX into an Attitude Era icon, often feuding with Vince McMahon, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and The Rock, another rising star during that era. From villains, DX turned into fan favorites. Throughout that time, HBK was recuperating from his injuries. He appeared on television from time to time, but didn't actually compete until 2002 during the Invasion storyline when the WWE had purchased WCW. By that time, Triple H was a true main event player and was one of the faces of the company. He had already won multiple championships and was now one of the most powerful people in the business because of his relationship with the McMahon family. In 2002, however, Michaels returned as a member of the new version of the New World Order. This version of the NWO eventually disbanded, allowing Triple H and HBK to reunite as DX members for the first time in 4 years. But when they came down to the ring in their DX attire and were to perform their signature Suck It taunt, Hunter pedigreed Michaels, turning on his longtime friend. Triple H continued his attack on Michaels as their rivalry had become personal. Eventually, HBK challenged his former ally to a non-sanctioned match at SummerSlam 2002. This was Michaels' first match in 4 years. The match was a physical one, showcasing Triple H's brutality and Michaels' ability to put on a good technical show. But instead of finishing the match with a strong move, HBK defeated Hunter with a jackknife pin that caught Triple H off guard. But after the match, Hunter attacked Michaels with his signature sledgehammer, making sure that this rivalry was not done yet. Before September 2002, WWE only had one champion, which was the WWE Undisputed Champion. However, after SummerSlam, the champion Brock Lesnar became exclusive to SmackDown, leaving Raw without a champion. To that end, Raw General Manager Eric Bischoff awarded Triple H the World Heavyweight Champion because he was supposed to be the #1 contender for Lesnar's championship. While the feud with HBK was placed on hold because Triple H was feuding with other stars for the championship, it became clear that they were on a collision course once more. Michaels, who was coming back from his injury after his former friend brutalized him with a sledgehammer, entered the first Elimination Chamber match in Survivor Series. He outlasted Rob Van Dam, Kane, Chris Jericho, and Booker T before hitting Triple H with the sweet chin music, become the sole survivor of the Elimination Chamber. HBK won his 4th world title and his first World Heavyweight Championship. However, this was the final time he won a world title. Triple H wanted his championship back. On the December 2, 2002 episode of Raw, he defeated Rob Van Dam in a #1 contender match, even though HBK was the special guest referee. This set up a rematch between the former friends on December 15th in a 3 stages of hell match. The first fall of the match was a street fight. Michaels and Triple H battled inside and outside the ring, with the two countering each other's moves.
I remember this. I remember going over a friend's house to watch this. Fire ass match. This was, man. Where that, bro? Where that, bro? I ain't even gotta explain it to y'all. Y'all should already know by now.
That's what I'm talking about. That's why he's the MVP. That's why he's the GOAT. The GOAT.
Fire ass match right here, dog.
Hunter, however, focused on his rival's knee after countering a sweet chin music attempt. He even brought a 2x4 wrapped in barbed wire and lit it on fire. But he couldn't use it on the champion because HBK countered the attack and used the 2x4 against Triple H, busting his head open. However, Triple H picked up the first fall when he hit the pedigree and pinned Michaels. The second fall was a steel cage match, wherein Hunter's brutality came into the picture once more. He ground Michaels' head into the side of the cage, making it clear that he was in control. However, after a quick back and forth action between the two, Michaels hit the challenger with a splash through a table off the cage, picking up the second fall of the matchup. The final fall was a ladder match. Michaels quickly used a ladder to his advantage, dropping one on Triple H's back and suplexing his challenger on it. However, the gritty Hunter managed to find an opening to climb the ladder. He pushed Michaels off it, resulting in the champion crashing through 4 stacked tables on the outside. With no one left to stop him, Triple H grabbed the title to become a 2-time World Heavyweight Champion. This was Shawn Michaels' final reign as a world champion. He would never come close to winning the title again after that match, although he still competed in a few championship matches after that. As HBK himself claimed, he never wanted to be the champion, but was more interested in putting over younger guys and having great matches with some of the best performers in the industry. But while he never became a champion again, the feud with Triple H was far from over. But it took a while for the two to clash once more, as they had to enter into different storylines and feuds. Triple H, meanwhile, formed a new stable called Evolution, composed of himself, Ric Flair, Randy Orton, and Batista. He and Evolution dominated Monday Night Raw, while Michaels was in different feuds. It took 4 months for the rivals to meet in the ring again. However, it was a tag team match. Michaels teamed up with Booker T, whereas Triple H teamed up with Chris Jericho. HBK and Booker won that match. They met again on April 27, 2003 during Backlash, but it was in a 6-man tag match. Michaels teamed up with Booker T and Kevin Nash to take on Hunter, Jericho, and Flair. However, Triple H's team won that match. The match led to a feud between Michaels and Evolution, but the focus was on his beef with Flair instead of his former buddy. In fact, Flair was instrumental in allowing Triple H to defeat Michaels in a 2-on-1 handicap match on Raw in May. But instead of Triple H and Flair teaming up, Michaels teamed up with his rival, the Nature Boy. Flair eventually won their feud, but Michaels continued fighting the different members of Triple H's faction. Evolution eventually defeated the team of HBK, Nash, and the Hurricane in June. But with things quieting down a bit, Michaels earned a slot at the Elimination Chamber match in SummerSlam 2003. Triple H defended his world title against Chris Jericho, Goldberg, Kevin Nash, Randy Orton, and Shawn Michaels inside the Hellish structure. The match began with Michaels and Jericho wrestling one another. Orton and Nash eventually joined them, with Nash as the first wrestler eliminated when HBK hit him with a sweet chin music. However, once Goldberg entered the match, all hell broke loose. Goldberg pinned and eliminated Michaels from the match. However, thanks to the timely intervention of Triple H's sledgehammer, the man known as The Game retained his championship and entered a feud with the ferocious Goldberg. Despite not being in the world title picture, Michaels fought his way back into it once more. He feuded with members of Evolution, even defeating them in a 6-man tag match on Raw in September. He also went on to team up with RVD to defeat Evolution in a handicap match in December, setting up an inevitable world title match against Triple H in the last Raw of the year. It looked like HBK was going to end 2003 as the World Heavyweight Champion when he hit Triple H with the sweet chin music in front of his hometown crowd in San Antonio, Texas. However, Eric Bischoff, as the special guest referee, reversed the outcome of the match when he realized that both men's shoulders were on the mat. As such, Michaels failed to win the title. The rivalry continued into the Royal Rumble pay-per-view event in 2004 when the two met in a last-man-standing match, which became arguably the best one-on-one match the two had at that point in time. They put it all out in that match as they tried to do everything to put each other down long enough for the 10 count. The game tried to pedigree HBK onto a steel chair, only for Michaels to counter it and drop him onto the steel chair. Michaels tried to put Hunter down with a super kick, only for the cerebral assassin to hit him with a low blow. Triple H took over and hit a pedigree, but was shocked to see Michaels standing up at the 9 count. With everything he had in his system, HBK hit the sweet chin music on Triple H as they both fell down and failed to get up. The match ended in a draw once more, making it clear that this feud was not over yet. Meanwhile, Chris Benoit won the Royal Rumble match to earn the opportunity to challenge for any championship in the main event of WrestleMania 20. He subsequently challenged Triple H for the World Heavyweight Championship, leaving Michaels disappointed that he couldn't get another shot at the Games Championship. But HBK inserted himself into the match when he attacked Benoit and signed the contract for WrestleMania. Stone Cold Steve Austin, serving as the Raw Sheriff at that time, decided to turn the match into a triple threat match for the World Heavyweight Championship in the main event of WrestleMania 20. The match was brutal, with all three men hitting big moves after another. Michaels, at one point, was supposed to tap to Benoit's sharpshooter. However, neither Triple H nor HBK won that match. Instead, Benoit made the game tap to the crippler crossface, allowing him to win his first world title, all while leaving both Triple H and Shawn Michaels championshipless in the grandest stage of them all. Chris Benoit went on to defend the title against both men on Backlash. This time, he forced HBK to submit to a sharpshooter, ending his feud with both Triple H and Shawn Michaels. But while there was no longer a title on the line, the bad blood was far from over. Rightfully so, the rubber match between Triple H and Shawn Michaels happened in a Hell in a Cell match at Bad Blood in June 2004. It was clear that the highlight of this rivalry was brutality, because Triple H and Michaels often wrestled in matches when there were no rules, as both men were allowed to put everything on the line to win. The Hell in a Cell match was no less brutal, as it lasted nearly 50 minutes, the longest match of its kind. They weren't shy about using the structure to their advantage. Michaels was the first to slam his opponent into the cell wall, resulting in Triple H bleeding, but the game got the advantage, eventually hitting Michaels with the steel steps to cause him to bleed as well. In what was the best spot of the match, HBK hit a diving elbow drop from a ladder onto Hunter, who was on a table. Although he couldn't capitalize on that move, he survived a pedigree from Triple H and even hit him with his finisher. But Triple H survived the sweet chin music and hit 2 straight pedigrees on his rival to finally end the long-standing feud between the two former friends. After the match, Michaels was given a standing ovation by the audience as he and Hunter wrestled a fine and brutal bout that was arguably their best match ever. Following the Bad Blood event, Raw commentator Jim Ross tried to mediate the relationship between Triple H and Shawn Michaels. As the two former friends were about to shake hands and put all animosity aside, Kane came in and attacked Michaels, allowing the Heartbreak Kid to enter into a different feud. Meanwhile, the Game went on to win the championship again after he defeated Randy Orton for the title, shortly after his former Evolution protege defeated Benoit to become the youngest world champion in history. Ahead of Taboo Tuesday in October, however, Michaels teamed up with Edge and Benoit to defeat Evolution. This was an awkward spot for the three men because fans were supposed to choose which of them was going to face Triple H for the world title. During the event, fans voted for Michaels to challenge the Game for the title, opening another mini rivalry between the two men. Throughout the match, Triple H targeted Michaels' injured knee, even using Flair's signature figure 4 leg lock on him. But HBK gained the advantage with a counter and eventually saw an opening to set up sweet chin music. Edge, however, came out and speared Michaels out of rage, believing he should have been the one chosen to challenge the Game for the title. Triple H pinned Michaels to retain the World Heavyweight Championship. Following this, Michaels was out of action with a legit knee injury. There was no longer any real reason for Triple H and Michaels to feud. However, they still wrestled a few tag team matches. With Evolution now starting to crumble, Michaels teamed up with Orton to defeat Hunter and Flair in a tag match in January 2005. 5 months later, with Evolution all disbanded, Kurt Angle and Triple H teamed up to defeat Batista and Michaels. 6 months later, however, Michaels defeated Triple H in a boot camp match in the Raw Tribute to the Troops episode, which really didn't even mean anything to advance the storyline between the two rivals. However, there was another storyline brewing behind the scenes. Shawn Michaels entered into a feud with Shane McMahon. Meanwhile, Triple H was in a storyline where he pursued the WWE Championship held by John Cena at that time. Michaels and Hunter wrestled in a few non-storyline matches against each other. In a March 2006 episode of Raw, Shane and Triple H defeated Michaels and Cena via disqualification. Then, a week later, a match between Triple H and Michaels wrestled in a match that ended in a no contest. It turned out that this was the final one-on-one match between the two former rivals, and it was a shame that it had to end disappointingly. But those matches were only meant to advance each superstar's match at WrestleMania that year. Michaels went on to defeat McMahon, while the Game lost to Cena in their respective matches in WrestleMania. But the one thing that people found interesting in those matches was that both Michaels and Hunter executed the DX crotch chop. Michaels, however, had to take time off for surgery on his knee. During that time, Triple H continued to pursue the WWE Championship, only for him to lose to Cena time and time again. Fed up by his losses, the game blamed Vince McMahon for his shortcomings, which eventually turned into a feud involving him and the McMahon family. This was the first time since the DX era that Triple H was basically standing up to the authority figure once more after spending years ruling at the top of Raw as the authority's favorite. Now a face for the first time in years, Hunter sought out a returning Shawn Michaels on June 12th to convince him to reform DX with him because they both had beef with the McMahon family and were powerless individually against them. In what was their first match as a duo since the 90s, Triple H and Shawn Michaels defeated the Spirit Squad, the McMahon's family's lapdogs, in a 5-on-2 handicap match during Vengeance. The feud with the McMahon family continued as DX defeated the Spirit Squad again and faced Vince and Shane at SummerSlam 2006. Even though they were less than 100% after enduring attacks from several wrestlers under the orders of the McMahon family, DX defeated the authority figures. The feud continued at Unforgiven, where DX defeated the McMahons and the Big Show in a handicap match. During the match, DX embarrassed Vince by shoving his face in between Big Show's butt. The match ended with a sledgehammer and sweet chin music combo on Vince McMahon. DX subsequently entered into different feuds with different superstar tag teams. They feuded with Randy Orton and Edge, a team known as Rated RKO, losing to them in the November Cyber Sunday event. They got their revenge at Survivor Series when Team DX defeated the team of Edge and Orton in a clean sweep. But the DX gimmick had to end early when Triple H suffered a torn quadriceps in a match against Rated RKO at New Year's Revolution on January 7, 2007. Eventually, both superstars went separate ways after Triple H recovered from his injury. HBK went on to enter feuds with various superstars while elevating younger talent. Meanwhile, Triple H eventually pursued the WWE champion, adding more world title reigns to his unparalleled resume. The next time the two met inside the ring was on the February 2008 No Way Out event, where they were both fighting for a #1 contender spot for the WWE Championship. While there was no animosity between them, Triple H eliminated his friend from the match after executing the pedigree, following a twist of fate from Jeff Hardy. The game went on to win the match, securing a championship match against Randy Orton and John Cena. Fast forward to 2009, Shawn Michaels lost to The Undertaker at WrestleMania and ended up taking a hiatus from WWE. The kayfabe storyline was that he was working odd jobs, even taking on the role of a chef. Meanwhile, Triple H was in a feud against Randy Orton and his new stable, The Legacy, composed of Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase. The game wanted backup and sought out Michaels by going to the cafeteria where he was working. He successfully convinced HBK to drop his new job and return to the company. In what was one of the funniest segments in Michaels' career, he hit the sweet chin music on an annoying little girl off camera, basically saying that he was quitting his job and was about to return to WWE. DX entered into a feud with The Legacy, winning 2 of the 3 matches they had with Orton's new stable. But in what was an interesting turn of events, both Triple H and Shawn Michaels challenged John Cena for the WWE Championship at Survivor Series 2009 in a triple threat.
And Shawn Michaels kicked the shit out of Triple H.
Involving Triple H and Shawn Michaels on opposite sides, HBK was the first to betray his friend by hitting the sweet chin music on the game early in the match. However, failed to beat Cena, who walked out of that match. That was a fire-ass match, Despite Michaels' actions, the two remained allies, as Triple H himself realized that it was every man for himself in a triple threat match. The two, despite the fact that DX, as an entire stable, won many tag titles in the past. They eventually dropped the titles to The Miz and Big Show on Raw 2 months later. However, even though DX never disbanded, both Triple H and Michaels followed different paths on the road to WrestleMania. The game went on to challenge Sheamus for the WWE title at WrestleMania 26. Meanwhile, Shawn Michaels pursued a rematch against The Undertaker after they had the match of a lifetime a year ago. This time, Michaels placed it all on the line, announcing that he was going to retire from wrestling if he couldn't defeat The Undertaker. In what was an even better match than the one they had a year before, HBK lost to the Phenom as he retired from active competition at the age of 45 in the grandest stage of them all. The game went on to challenge The Undertaker in a WrestleMania match a year later, losing to the Dead Man. This set up a rematch between the two for WrestleMania 28.
Fire-ass match.
The end of an era, basically referencing that the time of the Attitude Era superstars was coming to an end.
What is your name?
It doesn't matter what your name is.
Shawn Michaels returned not as a competitor, but as the special guest referee in that Hell in a Cell match. Despite HBK interfering a few times in that match, Taker went on to win it as the 3 superstars all walked out of the arena together, proud of the show they had just put on. But this wasn't the final in-ring event involving HBK in the game. Fast forward a few years later, Michaels assisted Hunter to defeat The Undertaker at Super Showdown in Melbourne.
Do we have to? Do we have to go through this? Come on, dog.
John in Tennessee, go ahead. What you want to say?
That shit is fucking trash, dog. Get the fuck off the airwaves.
Oh, come on, man.
Hear me and hear me good, nigga. I'm here to double down. That shit is a 2-pack of ass. The fuck are you talking about? That shit stinks.
Hell no. Trash ass nigga.
Hell to the long, no.
Do we have to? Come on, dog.
Hold on a minute, player.
I said, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Come on now, dog. Come on, man.
Man, this is some bullshit. Move this man.
No.
What the fuck, y'all? God damn! God damn! God damn! What? Fuck! Fuck! Fuck!
Born Australia. HBK subsequently announced that he was coming out of retirement for one more match at Crown Jewel 2016 to take on the Brothers of Destruction together with Triple H. Though DX won that match, it was a forgettable one because the 4 men involved in it were already far too old to be putting on a good show. It was often called the worst match of 2016. Eventually, Michaels went on to pursue a career as a trainer for NXT. Meanwhile, Triple H took on a more active role as the authority figure of WWE before becoming the head of creative after retiring from active competition. Both men are now 2 of the most important figures in WWE. Shawn Michaels is in charge of NXT, whereas Triple H is now the one calling the shots in the company. There were a lot of memorable things that we can get from the long storyline and relationship between Triple H and Shawn Michaels. Most people remember the run as members of DX. However, what we cannot deny is that they were perfect rivals for each other during their 2-year-long rivalry from 2002 to 2004. It was a brutal feud that allowed us to see both men putting it all on the line in matches that were basically fights instead of actual wrestling showcases. But the chemistry between these 2 men was clear as day, thanks to their real-life friendship, and we can never ask for a better rivalry than one involving 2 best friends. During the middle and latter part of the 2000s, we saw the rise of the likes of John Cena and Randy Orton as the top faces of the industry, but 2 imposing figures who were at their prime of their careers at that point were The Undertaker and Batista. These 2 larger-than-life superstars had one of the best rivalries of the decade, showcasing a combination of strength and physicality. But it remains one of the rivalries that some fans forgot about when the WWE was more focused on building.
No, I did. I ain't forget about that rivalry. That was a fire-ass rivalry. Batista versus Undertaker is a fire-ass rivalry. Hella 5-star matches out of those 2. But anyways, though, we may go through that. We may go through that in the future. When I get back from vacation, I'm definitely going to try to see if I can throw that one up in there. That's if my boy BDWJ ain't go crazy, but he more than likely, I know BDWJ, he probably went crazy while I was gone. So, yeah. But anyway, so that's just going to about do it for this one, man. I will see you all in the next video, most definitely. Shawn Michaels versus Triple H is one of those top tier rivalries that should definitely get its flowers, bro. When we talking about long-term booking, this is a prime example of long-term booking. But yeah, man, that's just gonna about do it for this one. I will see you all in the next video. Till then, peace out.